Classification: serial killer. Characteristics: serial rapist. Number of victims: 10. Date of murders: May through November 1984. Date of arrest: November 16th, 1984. Date of birth: October 14th, 1953. Victim profile: Lena Long, 20. Michelle Denise Sims, 22. Elizabeth B. Laudenbeck, 22. Chanel Devon Williams, 18. Karen Beth Disenfriend, 28. Kimberly Cow Hoops, 22. Virginia Lee Johnson, 18. Kim Marie Swan, 21. Vicki Elliott, an unidentified woman. Method of murder: most victims were strangled and are asphyxiated. However, one was shot and one died of a cut throat. Location: Tampa Bay area, Florida, USA. Status: sentenced to death on July 25th, 1986. Bobby Long was born on October 14th, 1953 in Canova, West Virginia, to Joe and Luda Long. Long was born with an extra Y chromosome, known as 47XXY, a specific variant of Klinefelter syndrome. The condition results in excessive estrogen production, resulting in development of female traits such as breast. Surgery removed 6 pounds of excess tissue from his chest, but a resilient gender confusion remained, perhaps exacerbated by his mother, who shared a bed with Bobby until he was 13 years old. His mother, Lou, said that she never shared a bed with Bobby or she ever had, relations with men in her bed while Bobby was in the bed with Bobby. But Bobby said that he watched his mother get married twice and divorced twice, and that she had short term relationships with men. And this is why he resents his mother and looks at all women like his mother. Bobby suffered a serious and grievous head injuries beginning at the age of 5. He was knocked unconscious in a fall from a swing. One of his eyelids was um, stuck by a stick when he fell. The following year, he was thrown from his bicycle, crashing headfirst into a parked car with injuries including loss of several teeth and a severe concussion. At the age of 7, he fell from a pony onto his head, remaining dizzy and nauseous for several weeks after the incident. So, this is probably why he failed first grade because of all these injuries he was sustaining. At the age of 13, Long met the girl who would become his first wife, Cynthia. Various accounts agree that he was dominated by his girlfriend and his mother. I don't know why. So he married Cynthia in 1974, and they go on to have 2 kids. And so Bobby enlisted in the Army prior to his marriage, and he crashed a motorcycle 6 months later, shattering his helmet with the impact in his skull on the asphalt. Convulsing in the hospital, he was alternately stricken by blinding headaches and unpredictable violent rages, discovered a new obsession with X. While still in a cast, Long masturbated 5 times a day to relieve himself, continued to practice at home despite twice daily X with his wife. Still, it was not enough, and soon he began to search for other prey. You can't make this up. Between 1980 and 1983, Bobby terrorized Florida communities of Miami, Ocala, and Fort Lauderdale as the classified ad rapist. Preying on housewives in midday while their husbands were working, Long typical produced a knife, bound his victims, and raped him violently and robbed their homes before he fled. Convicted of rape in November 1981, Bobby was cleared on appeal, though the discovery of witnesses alleging the victim's consent, and so the attacks continued, with unaliving shortly added to the list of crimes. Unlike the 50 women raped by Bobby, his unaliving victims were selected by the ranks of prostitutes or other women whom he viewed as tramps. Between May and November 1984, he strangled, stabbed, and shot at least 9 victims, when a 10th suspect by police but never charged against him. In early November, he snatched a 17-year-old girl off the street and raped her, sparing her life, and she described acts of incest performed by her father. What? The first body was nude and bound of a young Oriental female was discovered by young boys late in the afternoon in a remote area of southern Hillsborough County. This victim was identified as Nguyen Thai Long, aka Lana Long, a 20-year-old Lautinan uh, female who was employed as an exotic dancer at a lounge located on Nebraska Avenue in the city of Tampa. She normally worked on the evening shift and was known to use alcohol and drugs. Alana was last seen in the apartment complex where she lived. This was in an area near the University of South Florida, where many of the residents were transients. She had been missing for approximately 3 days. Lana died. Lana had been dead for approximately 48 to 72 hours. She was lying face down with her hands tied behind her back with rope and fabric. A rope was also observed around her neck, which had a leash like extension approximately 14 inches in length. It was noted that the rope around the wrist and neck were different in nature. Under the victim's face was a piece of fabric which may have been used as a gag. The victim's feet were spread apart to a distance of 5 feet, and it appeared as if the body had been deliberately displayed in this manner. The victim's clothing and personal belongings were never found. During an autopsy, a large open wound was discovered on the victim's face. Decomposition was extensive in this area, but the cause of death was determined to be strangulation. 2 weeks later, on May 27, 1984, 11:30 a.m., the body of a young white female was discovered in an isolated area of Hillsborough County. The victim was found nude with clothing near the body. The victim was on her back and her hands bound at the wrist and a ligature around her neck. Her throat had been cut and she had sustained multiple blunt trauma injuries to the head. The victim had been at the scene for approximately 8 to 10 hours. The victim's heads were bound to her sides with a clothesline type of rope. The rope at the neck was made of the same type of rope and was tied in a type of hangman's noose. There was a 3 to 4 foot length of rope extending from the noose. The victim also had what appeared to be the Green Man's t shirt binding her upper arms. Her hair and fiber evidence were collected from the victim's body. The victim was identified as Michelle Denise Sims, 22 years old, a native of California. She was last seen the previous night walking with 2 white males near Kennedy Boulevard in an area that is popular for working prostitutes. Michelle had previously worked as a prostitute. June 24th, 1984. The body of another young white female was found, the third victim in the series of homicides. Although this would not be known for a few months, the victim was found on an orange grove in southeast Hillsborough County. The victim was fully clothed and the body was in an advanced stage of decomposition. The total body weight of the victim, including her clothes, was only 25 pounds. There were no marks present, and the victim was not found near an interstate as the first 2 victims. During the initial stages of the investigation, the victim's boyfriend failed a polygraph and appeared to be the excellent suspect. The victim was identified as Elizabeth B. Loudenbach, 22, of Tampa. Loudenbach was employed as an assembly line worker and was last seen at 7 o'clock p.m. on June 8, 1984. She was known to frequent the area of Nebraska Avenue and Skipper Road in northern Hillsborough, but she had no criminal history. October 7th, 1984, the new body of a young black female was discovered near Hillsborough County line, lying next to the dirt entrance road of a cattle ranch. The victim's clothing, except for her bra, was found next to the body. The bra had been tied in a knot and was found hanging from the entrance gate. The head area was in an advanced state of decomposition, much more so than the body. When they did the autopsy, they revealed a puncture wound to the back of the neck and a gunshot wound to the neck that was the cause of death. The victim was identified as Chanel Devon Williams, an 18-year-old black female. The victim had been previously arrested for prostitution. She was known to frequent a gay bar in Kennedy Boulevard in Tampa, but she had last seen on the night of September 30th, 1984, by another prostitute who she had been working with. The pair was working in the area of Nebraska Avenue. Then a companion solicited by John were approximately 2 lengths of a mile from the motel where they were conducting their business. Chanel was supposed to come back to the motel, but she never made it back. So, October 14th, 1984, the body of a white female that was nude was discovered in an unpopulated area in northeastern Hillsborough. The body was found in an orange grove approximately 30 feet from a dirt road and dragged from a roadway. The body had been placed on a gold colored bedspread and a blue jogging suit was tied outside the blanket. The bedspread had been tied at both ends with common white string, and the victim's hands had been in front with a red and white handkerchief. Her right wrist and legs were bound with a drawstring, and where ligature marks on the victim's throat had been struck on the forehead and strangled. The victim was identified as Karen Beth Dis- Disenfriend, a 28-year-old cocaine user and prostitute. Karen had been working in the area of Nebraska and Hillsborough Avenues and was last seen during the early morning hours of October 14th, 1984. October 30th, 1984, a nude mummified remains of a white female were discovered near Highway 301 in northern Hillsborough County, just south of Pasco County. No clothing, ligatures, or any other type of physical evidence were found at the scene. Due to the amount of time the body was in the elements, the fact that the victim was nude, no foreign hairs, fibers, semen, or any other evidence were discovered. The victim would be identified until he was arrested. But Bobby gave her the name Sugar. And then when the police went off of this information, she came back as Kimberly Cowd Hobbs, a 22-year-old white female. She was last seen by her boyfriend getting into a 1977-78 maroon Chrysler Cordoba. She was eventually associated with Bobby's vehicle. On November 6, 1984, the remains of a female were discovered near Morris Bridge in Pasco County. The bones of the victim were scattered about a large area. However, a ligature was found. Another ligature was discovered on an arm bone. A shirt, a pair of panties, and some jewelry were also found. The victim was Virginia Lee Johnson, an 18-year-old white female originally from Connecticut. She learned that she split her time between Connecticut and North Tampa, working as a prostitute in North Nebraska Avenue. November 24th, 1984, the new body of a young white female was found in an incline off the North Orient Road in the city of Tampa, involving yet a third jurisdiction in the homicides. A pair of blue jeans and blue flowered top were near the body. The victim was wearing high knee nylons. The body was face down with the head at the lower portion of the incline. Faint tire impressions were observed in the grass. It appeared that the unaliver had pulled off the road and had thrown the body over the edge onto the incline. When they examined this person, that fecal matter was present on the inside of the victim's legs and on the exterior of the clothing. The body had a pronounced ligature mark on the front portion of the neck and also ligature marks on both wrists and on both arms. But the rope was never found, which was weird. She was come to be known as Kim Marie Swan, a 20-year-old female narcotics user who worked as a nude dancer and was last seen walking out of a convenience store near her parents' home at 3 o'clock p.m. on November 11th, 1984. November 3rd, 1984, a young girl named Lisa McVeigh was leaving a donut shop in northern Tampa when she was abducted. The offender took her to an unknown apartment and actually assaulted her for 26 hours before releasing her. She went to the Tampa Police Department and she reported the crime. So now they gather all their evidence, and the 17-year-old leads them to the rapist. So Bobby was arrested outside of a movie theater on November 16th, 1984, and charged with actual battery in the kidnapping of Lisa McVeigh. Bobby signaled a formal Miranda waiver and consented to questioning after the detective proceeded the confession. From the McVeigh case, their questioning focused on a series of unsolved actual battery homicides in the Temple Bay area. As detectives questioned Bobby about the unalivings, he replied, "I'd rather not answer that." The detectives continued their interrogation and handed Bobby photographs of the various unalived victims. At this point, Bobby stated, "The complexion of things sure have changed since you came back into the room. I think I need an attorney," but no attorney was provided. At the long eventually So Bobby eventually confessed to the 8 unalivings in Hillsborough County and the one unaliving in Pasco. Okay, so Bobby pled guilty on September 24th, 1985 to 8 homicides and the abduction and rape of Lisa McVeigh, receiving 26 life sentences without the possibility of parole, 24 concurrent, and 2 to run consecutively to the first 24, and 7 life sentences with the possibility of parole after 25 years. The state retained an option to seek the death penalty for the murder of Michelle Simmons. In July 1986, Bobby was found guilty and was sentenced to die in Florida by lethal injection. Bobby confessed to raping and unaliving women. His confession was thrown out. His trial proceeded straight to the penalty phase, which was possible in the 1980s and early 1985. He received the death penalty. Okay. On April 23rd, 2019, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed Bobby's death warrant, the first death warrant he signed since taking office in January 2019. His subsequent appeals denied. He was executed by lethal injection on May 23rd, 2019, more than 30 years after his conviction. He ate his final meal at 9:30 a.m. He was pronounced dead at 7 p.m., but had no last words. This is what he ate.